today on our webinar on how to fully use the capabilities of vacation mode. We thought since Memorial Day is approaching and summer that this would be the perfect time to go over the functionality of vacation mode. So for the next 60 minutes, we'll go over some ideas for vacation mode, how to create a lived-in look, products that can help with vacation mode, such as the water shutoff valve to prevent damages, and ways to control your home or business while you are away. So throughout the webinar, if you have any questions at all, please type your question in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. We will get to as many questions as we can during the webinar, and any unanswered questions will be addressed in the follow-up email that Amy will send you next week. Amy is going to be our presenter today, along with myself. My name is Jessie, and I'm the marketing coordinator. And so I will just pass this to Amy.
Thank you very much, Jessie, and thank you all for joining us here today. We're going to spend some time talking about vacation mode, so let's just dive right in. So just to start out, what is vacation mode? Vacation mode is like a second level of the away mode, and that is how you get to it as well. So when you're armed in vacation mode, all burglar zones are going to be armed. That's, including your entry-exit zones, your perimeter incident zones, your interior zones. Everything is active when you're armed in vacation mode, just like when you're in away mode. So you get into vacation mode with the exit key, and I'm just going to pop up my webcam here for just a second and show you the way that works, as you also see on your screen there. And there I knocked the camera. Okay, so this is our M1 KPB keypad that you're seeing here on the screen for my webcam. And to arm in vacation mode, I'm going to press the exit key, which is going to arm and away. And while this exit timer is running, I can press the exit key again, and you'll see there I'm now in vacation mode. So it's really easy to arm in that mode. And the purpose of this mode, because again it is, as far as what's active, it's the same as your away mode. So we use this for automating things. I'm going to go ahead and just disarm this so that it will stop beeping. There we go. So you can automate things. You can have things work differently when you're going to be away for an extended period of time than they would work on, your normal everyday basis. So the kind of things that we're talking about doing with vacation mode are going to be things like setting back thermostats and turning off water heaters to save on energy costs. If you're going to be away for an extended period of time, you don't really need to keep your house cooled to 72 degrees or your business. You don't need to be heating water if no one is going to be there to use it. So these are ways that you can save money while you're on vacation and take that extra money and have fun with it while you're out on your vacation. For security purposes, it would be a good idea to set up a routine to randomly turn on lights or seemingly randomly turn on lights to create that lived-in look. So we'll go over a couple of examples of how, in the evening hours is what we're going to concentrate on there, but then you can apply these to, other times of day as well. Just, turning on lights at different times so that it looks like someone's at home. That's going to deter burglars from wanting to come check it out. Another thing that you'll want to consider is shutting off the main water supply. This is going to help prevent any costly damage from leaks, from a leaky appliance or a broken pipe, that sort of thing. So that's a very important and pretty easy thing to add to the M1 system. And then of course we can provide notifications to the owner so they know what's going on while they're away. Now those notifications could also be provided on a daily basis, but we'll show you some things that you might want to do while you're away for a longer period of time. Before I proceed any further into diving into these things, Jessie, did you have a polling question that you wanted to launch, or no?
No, not at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, So let's just dive into the energy savings. We talked a little bit about the things that you could do there, but this chart is showing for residential usage, and of course this is similar for commercial, slightly different on the way things are used. But as far as your space heating, AC and water heating, they're going to be fairly similar, but you can see in a residence that almost half of the energy is used for heating and cooling the home, and another fifth is used for heating water. So there's a lot of potential there to save money on energy costs for those things when they're not going to be used. So we can change the set points on the thermostats and also turn off the water heater when the system is armed in vacation mode, and we do that with rules. So you can see a rule example on the screen here. We have, whenever the main house is armed in vacation mode, then we're setting the cooling desired temperature to a much higher level than we normally would at 85, and the heating to a lower level than we normally would at 55. Now that's still going to provide some climate control so that you're not getting extremely hot or extremely cold, which could be bad for electronics or pipes, depending on whether you're talking hot or cold there. You still want to have some climate control there, but these settings are more aggressive setbacks, so that you can save money on heating and cooling. And then you can see there we're using a lighting device to control the water heater. And so we'll talk a little bit about that product here in just a minute, but basically what we're issuing there is a lighting command to an appliance module to turn the water heater off. As far as integrating with thermostats is concerned, there are a couple of different ways that you can go. We have some hardwired options. These hardwire into the M1 system using the M1 XSP, which is a serial expander. And you can see we work with April Air, with the Carrier Infinity system, HAI thermostats, and RCS thermostats with that M1 XSP. Now, with the different thermostats, like the Carrier and the HAI, for instance, that requires special firmware in the M1 XSP to support those thermostats. So you definitely want to make note of that, and when you're working with the thermostats, you'll find on our website we have those different firmware versions listed by what they're to be used for, and just make sure that you load in the right version for what you're going to be working with. And again, it's the Carrier and the HAI that require that. With the Carrier, the HAI, and the RCS, we're talking directly to the thermostat. These are communicating thermostats, and so our integration is at that thermostat. With the Carrier Infinity, again, it's only with the Infinity system, and they have a special automation module that we connect to with the serial connection. So it's a little bit different with the Carrier from the others, but again, the product that you need is the M1 XSP, and just make note of what you're using and see if there's a special firmware version for it, and you'll find the instructions for how to set the serial expander up for that particular brand with the release notes for that particular update. And you'll find all that on elkproducts.com. So those are for the hardwired thermostats. And then the other option for maybe a situation where you're doing a retrofit or you just happen to already be using these technologies, we also work with the Lutron Radio Raw 2. We have a special interface for that, which is the M1 XSLU, and that connects to the Lutron Radio Raw 2 main repeater and allows us to control thermostats as well as lights and shades. So if you're looking at having all of those and you're interested in the Lutron, that is something that we can integrate with. We also have capability of integrating with Z-Wave, and so that opens you up to a number of different manufacturers that make thermostats. RCS makes a Z-Wave thermostat. I believe Honeywell makes a Z-Wave thermostat. I think there's like Radio Thermostats, another company that makes them. There's a number of different companies that make the Z-Wave thermostats. So if you have Z-Wave thermostats or you want to work with those, you need the M1 XSLZW. And that connects to a Leviton piece. It's a VRC0P. That is a serial interface from Leviton for Z-Wave. And so what that allows us to do is connect our M1 XSLZW with the serial cable over to this Leviton piece, which then plugs into the wall outlet for power, and it sends out all of the Z-Wave RF signals. And so with Z-Wave we can control the wireless thermostats, and again you've got lights there as well, which we'll be talking about a little bit more here in a moment. And then of course Z-Wave allows lock control. So with the Lutron and the Z-Wave, if you're wanting to do lights and thermostats, that's something to definitely look into those two, as you can cover both with one technology there. All right, so we've talked a little bit about thermostats, and the other part of our energy saving setback was for a water heater. And again, we're talking about an electric water heater, not a gas, but an electric. We can use the ELK 9200, which is a heavy-duty relay, 60-amp relay, to control the water heater. And so you can see in the picture there, there's just like the little pigtail, and it has a normal plug-in on the end of it. And so what you're going to do with that is actually plug it into an automation module, like an appliance module. And this could be Z-Wave, UPB, Insteon, a number of different manufacturers make those appliance modules. So you can just use that to send a command to the appliance module, which is then going to switch power to the relay, and the relay will then control the water heater. So really neat product, and universal in the way that it works, so you can use it with whichever lighting product you're interfacing with. All right, before I go any further, I just want to check and see if there's any questions.
Questions at this time, but I do want to remind everybody that if you do have questions, just type them in the questions box and we'll answer them for you.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is lighting control and creating that lived-in look. Now, there are a number of different ways that you could go about doing this, just depending on what it is that you want to accomplish, which lights you're wanting to control, and the various schedules and things that you can go by. But I'm just going to show you a couple of examples here to kind of get your gears turning about how you can do this, because this particular subject, as I sat down to prepare for this, I found myself going in 5 different directions here. So I'm just going to show you a couple of different examples, and then we can discuss if you have any questions or want to know, could I do this or could I do that. Just type those questions in and we'll discuss that. The first example I want to go over is just the porch light. Just basically turning on some outside lights. This could be just the porch, or it could be a whole set of outdoor lights that you want to turn on. And so that may be something that you're already doing every day at sunset. In my example here, I'm saying, every day you're turning that on at sunset and off when the system is armed to night mode. And that might be a normal rule that you have in your system for your everyday, but it will still turn on at sunset, but because you're never going to arm to night mode because you're gone and it's in vacation mode, it's not going to turn off. So we can do some things here to turn it off at different times, so that it looks like you've decided to go to bed now. You've armed the system to night mode like you normally do, and this could be varying times of night. So what I've done here in this example is just sort of split up the days of the week. So I'm doing something on Monday and Wednesday, on something on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then something different on Friday and Saturday. Just keeping in with my own schedule. I tend to stay up maybe an hour later on the weekend than I do during the week. So just made an adjustment here to the rules, and you can see I've just picked some random times at night around what would typically be my bedtime. You want to kind of talk with your customer and see what's going to fit their schedule and really look like what they would normally do. So you can see they're just at different times through different days of the week. I'm just turning the light off, and you can see in an and statement I have specified that the system is armed in vacation mode. So these rules are only going to be active when you're armed in vacation. When you are not armed in vacation, you're going through your normal schedule, then the rules at the top apply. So the next example I wanted to show is just basically a living room light, and this could be any light in the house. This could be multiple lights in the house. Just depends on how you want to set it up. But again, for my example here, I'm using a living room light, and I'm basing my rules here. They're all based on sunset, so you can see it's a certain amount of time after sunset. Sunset being a varying time, that's you're going to have a couple minutes difference from one end of the week to the next. This is going to give you a little bit more variation, and you can see I've also added in with that variation on the rules that I'm setting up with the times that I'm using. So you can see through the week, 17 minutes after sunset we're turning that light on. On the weekend we're waiting 53 minutes after sunset. Maybe it takes us a little bit longer to get home on the weekends, or just again trying to mix it up here and just throwing some ideas out there. And then you can see at different times at night, different days of the week when the system's on vacation mode, we're turning that off at random different times there as well. So while we can't, choose random numbers and completely randomize when these lights come on, we can sort of simulate what normally happens and just add some variance in it so that it's not, oh, well, it's 10:30, the lights popped on every day, that kind of thing. Another example that I have here is for bedroom lights. And so what I've done with this particular set of rules is I'm saying that between May and August, those summer months when the days are longer, the nights are shorter, then I'm using this schedule. You could set up a different sequence for different seasons. And again, I'm basing my time here off of sunset so that I have that couple of minutes variance from one end of the week to the next. But again, this schedule would only apply during those months where the days are a little bit longer. So you can see right around 3 hours 17 minutes, or 3 hours 21 minutes. I've got a few different times set here just to add that variation. And I'm also picking different days of the week so that again the lights don't come on exactly the same order at the same time on Monday that they did on Tuesday, that sort of thing, adding that variance in there. And with this particular example, what I'm showing here is, this is bedtime. You go into the bedroom, turn the bedroom lights on, get ready for bed. That takes me a few minutes to get wound down and actually get ready for lights out. So you can see that I've turned these lights on for varying amounts of time too, where I have my set bedroom light, and again I'm using a fade rate of or brightness of 55%, and I'm turning it on for 21 minutes on Monday and Wednesday, 17 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday, and then 19 minutes on Friday and Saturday. And again, that's just to build in some variation so that they're not coming on and going off at the exact same time every day, and that's all you're really trying to do with that lived-in look. Now there are a lot of different things that you could do with this, and these aren't the only ways to go here. Just again, some ideas to kind of get your gears turning on how you can sort of set up those schedules with some variation and again, seemingly random activation of the lights. We work with a variety of lighting partners, so there's a lot to choose from in the realm of lighting and integration with M1. So I've got those laid out here. Central Light offers a hardwired lighting solution as well as a wireless solution that I believe is Zigbee based, but we do use the M1 XSP serial expander for that, and there's special firmware that you need to get for Central Light in order to allow that serial expander to work with that product. But they do have a hardwired and a wireless-based option through Central Light. Insteon and Universal Devices, those two kind of go hand in hand. Insteon being the lighting technology. Universal Devices affords us the opportunity to interface with Insteon over the network, which for us is the preferred method of doing that. So you need the M1 XEP to put the M1 on the network, and then you also need a Universal Devices ISY, and that's going to also be a network device that's going to allow us to talk to all of the Insteon lighting devices that are on that network. So Insteon's a pretty popular lighting product, been around for a while, but we do prefer the XEP method for integration. Now there's a possibility of integrating through a serial expander, but you're not going to get as rich an interface or as good of an interface to the Insteon through the XSP as you would through the XEP. So we would encourage you to go through the network, through the XEP using the Universal Devices. And as we talked about earlier, we do work with the Lutron Radio Raw 2 through the M1 XSLU, and that lets us do lighting as well as thermostats, and they also provide shade control there. And our device connects to the main repeater for the Lutron Radio Raw 2. We work with UPB devices. Now PulseWorks and Simply Automated are two of our partner manufacturers that make the UPB devices, so you can work with either one of those. We do have a special interface for UPB, which is the M1 PCS PIM, and that connects to the data bus directly and then plugs into a wall outlet and allows us to talk to the UPB devices directly from the M1. So pretty straightforward integration on the UPB, and you do need to use their Upstart software to set that up, but that will work with either the PulseWorks or the Simply Automated using that device. Now I've listed here the Square D, the Schneider Electric, which is a Clipsal C-Bus product. We do integrate with that, although that's not as common in the U.S. as it is in areas like Australia and some other countries. So while we do interface with that, you're less likely to encounter that in the United States. But it's just something to be aware of. And as we mentioned before, we do work with Z-Wave. We do have a special Z-Wave interface that works with a Leviton product, and then Leviton also makes their Vizia RF lighting products, which are Z-Wave based. We recommend the use of those because they do provide full two-way communication with the M1 as far as providing their feedback when they're controlled at the light or from some other controller, at the switch or otherwise. But so that's something to take a look at. And again, Z-Wave gives you lighting as well as thermostat. So between the Z-Wave and the Lutron, you get both lighting and thermostat control with those, which is kind of nice. But again, with the Z-Wave, the Leviton lighting product is something to definitely take a look at. All right, the next thing that we want to talk about is going to be preventing water damage. As we said before, that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're going to be away for a while. If you have a leak from a failed appliance or a broken pipe, it can cause a lot of damage to your home or your business. And one thing that a lot of people run into if you're on vacation for, let's say you're on vacation for a week, or maybe even you're lucky and you're on a nice long 2-week vacation. If you have a water leak at your home that damages your home and you don't report that to your insurance company within a certain amount of time, and typically that's a very short period of time, then they won't help you with your homeowner's policy or your insurance policy that you have to cover your building. So that's definitely a scary prospect that you come back from vacation and find all this damage and find out that you're not going to be covered by your insurance because you didn't report it soon enough. So we could just stop all that from happening to begin with by just cutting the main water supply off. If you're not going to be there, you really don't need the water on, and that's going to prevent anything from being able to leak. So it's definitely a good thing, and Elk has a great product for this that integrates well with the M1, and that is our water shutoff valve, the WSV2, which is our new and improved valve that we've been offering for a little while now. This valve does have the NSF and NEMA approvals so that it's safe for drinking water. We offer a 2-year warranty on this product. The new water shutoff valve features an override handle so that you can control it manually if there's a power outage. And of course it's just a 12-volt DC operation, which is something that we can easily do with the M1 using a relay. So what I've got on the screen now is an example of how you might wire the water shutoff valve to the M1. And again, this water shutoff valve, we recommend about a 2-amp power supply with it. Now it doesn't require 2 amps all the time. It's just while it's it could be anywhere from 800 milliamps and up to 2 amps. Just when the valve is actually moving, but you may not want to try to pull that from the M1 because it is current limited. You're not supposed to pull more than 1 amp continuous current from the panel. So you may want to consider definitely using an auxiliary power supply when you're using the water shutoff valve so that you don't overload the panel. But again, you're just going to take that power source and run it into, we're showing output 3 here, which is our onboard Form C relay. If you're already using output 3 for something else, you can apply this same concept to another relay output, whether that just be something like an ELK 912 connected to one of your voltage outputs on the M1, or if you have an output expander that has relays, you can just apply this same concept for wiring to whichever relay you're going to be using. But we're bringing our positive from our power source into the common, and then we have our red lead, which closes the valve, and our white lead, which opens the valve, going into the normally closed and normally open. And the black wire needs to go to the negative of your power source. Now the water shutoff valve does have a green wire. That is a status indicator, so that when the valve is closed, you have voltage available there. With the M1, it's not really necessary to connect that green wire to anything, so we're just going to make sure that's well insulated and leave it disconnected, because we don't really need that. The M1 is going to know whether the valve is open or closed based on the output status. So, but you can see here with the rule examples that I've given, when we're arming in vacation mode, we are turning the valve off. We're turning the output off, which applies the power to the closed lead to close the valve. Now you'll see there I'm using a counter. I'm setting that counter to 1, and I've named that counter vacation. I'm just using that basically as a way to flag the state that it's been armed in vacation mode, and that's why the valve's been turned off. And then I reference that in the second rule, that when the system's disarmed, if that vacation counter is equal to 1, meaning it had been armed in vacation mode, then I'll go ahead and turn the valve back on and then reset my counter. Now the reason that I did that, I don't necessarily want to open the valve every time I disarm the system. Let's just say, for instance, there's a water alarm. If you've armed the system, say on a normal basis, to away mode, and you have a water alarm, when you come in and disarm the system, you don't necessarily want to turn that valve right back on. Now you may have a rule in place that closes the valve when there's a water alarm. That's something you definitely want to do, but you don't want to open that up just because you disarmed the system. The condition that caused the alarm may still exist. But with what we're doing here with vacation mode, we're closing it when it's in vacation mode, and so we can, as long as we know that we just came out of vacation mode, which is the point of the counter, we can go ahead and open it back up in that case. And that's what's going on with those rules. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much with that.
Amy, I do have a question.
Okay.
What happens to the hot water heater if it leaks while the water is off? How do you get notified?
If the water heater leaks while the water's off, well, I mean, it would be advisable, any appliance like a water heater that is possibility for a water leak, you should have water sensors installed so that you can know that there's been a water alarm, and then again you can get a notification of that. And we're going to go into some notification there, so that's something I can cover in a little bit more detail if we need to there. But you could get a notification that that alarm had occurred. Now your water's already going to be off, and you could at that point go ahead and cut the water heater off as well, which again, if you're in vacation mode, it should already be off. So I'm not sure if I answered the question there or not. But
No, he said good answer. Thank you so much, Amy.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye.
Okay, so that brings us to knowing what's going on and how you interface with your system while you are away. And so we have a lot of different options here for remote control. We offer the M1-to-Go software, which is a Windows-based application, so you could have that on your Windows laptop or your Windows tablet that you're taking with you on vacation and use that. Or you're definitely going to have your phone with you, so if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, there are apps available for that. eKeypad works for iPhone and the iPad, as well as an iPod Touch. If you have that, you can run that app on that device as well. Of course, that's going to require a Wi-Fi connection, but with the phone and the iPad, you may have cellular connection available there to the internet. And then with the Android devices, whether that be an Android phone or a tablet, you would want to use M1 Touch Pro. Another option that you have, and there's a web-based cloud service called Connect One, and they offer a lot of different functionality that, again, you're subscribing to a monthly service there, and they support a number of different devices. So that's just something if you think that you might want some enhanced features for your remote control that you're not getting from the other interfaces that are available, take a look at what Connect One has to offer, because they may have the solution that you're looking for. Now, that's how you can, pick up a device and see what's going on, but you may want to be notified of things that are happening as they happen. So the M1 Gold can provide notifications over the phone with a built-in voice dialer, so it can make a phone call and announce a message. And that's just built into the M1 Gold. You don't have to add anything to it to get that to work. The M1 XEP Ethernet interface, which we talked about just a little bit earlier when we were talking about Insteon, it can actually send an email, or through the email feature can send a text message. So that's going to be for 16 different email addresses and a message to go with each. So again, not a replacement for reporting, but a good way to get notified of certain things, quick email or text message. Now, the way that the text messaging part works, because again, this is all based on an email feature. So a lot of the service providers, in fact, I'm pretty sure all of them provide some way to do this. I'm going to use Verizon as an example, because that's a big carrier in the area that we're in. But so Verizon, for instance, if you want to send a text message to someone's phone from your email or from an email platform, you just structure the email address such that you have the 10-digit phone number at vtext.com. And so when you send an email to that address, it comes into that phone as a text message. And again, that's just how Verizon does it. The other carriers will have a different format as to how you have to make that email address appear, but you'll just want to check with your carrier to see how they set that up, because pretty much all of them offer that as an option to get the text message through an email. And so I've just shown a couple of examples here. Now, these examples do not necessarily have to be specific to vacation mode, but these are also just things that you would like to know if you're away for the day or away for a month. You want to know these things. So the first example just shows a freezer temperature. Let's say this is your business, or this could be in your home as well. You just want to know that your freezer is staying at a good temperature, that it's below freezing. So we're just checking to say, we're looking every 30 minutes. If that temperature is greater than 32 degrees, then we just want to send an email message to notify someone that the freezer is not frozen. It's gotten too warm, so the action can be taken there. And if you're on vacation, maybe that's where you call your relative or your neighbor and ask them to go take a look, or grab some stuff out of your freezer for you so it doesn't go to waste. Speaking of the neighbor, you may want to know, you may be friendly with your neighbor and have them house sit for you, or watch after things while you're gone. So you have a user code for them to be able to disarm the system so that they can go in and check on things, water your house plants, whatever the case may be. But you want to know when they're coming and going, that kind of thing. So you can see here in this example, we're just saying if the system is disarmed by this particular user, then we want to get an email message. And again, that you can see I've structured that with the Verizon example as far as that coming into the phone as a text message. And then, of course, I'm just showing there you can get a notification if there is an alarm. Now, ELK does not recommend or condone this voice dialer feature being used as a replacement for reporting, because it's simply not that. You're not going to get anywhere near the detail that you need, and you also need your central station reporting so that you get the proper authorities dispatched to take care of whatever's going on at your home, whether it's a burglar alarm or something else. But this would be, again, in addition to that, just letting you know that that condition has occurred. Now, one thing here, and I didn't actually show this example. If we have time at the end, I may do that. But where you've got like your neighbor code or your house sitter code, you can write rules to enable and disable users in the system, so that your neighbor, can have this code and use it while you're away, and you want them to be looking after things. But on the day-to-day, that code wouldn't necessarily work. So that's something. If we have some time at the end, I'll show you how you could set up a rule to enable and disable a user for something like that. All right, and again, the email and text capabilities are available through the add-on part, M1XEP, which is our Ethernet interface. The Ethernet interface connects to the M1 Gold through a main serial port, and then it also connects to your router, and so that's how it gets out over the internet. It provides the functionality of being able to use the PC software and the apps that we were talking about before that don't require monthly fees, as well as the cloud-based service, which provides some enhanced remote capabilities. There are monthly fees involved with that, but you can get that kind of functionality through the Ethernet interface, as well as the email and text notifications. And of course, you can also report events to your central station through the M1XCP if they have the DSE SureGuard or Osborne Hoffman OH2000E receivers at the central station. Then we can send reports over the internet through the M1XCP, which is a nice feature for those situations where you're finding that you don't have a phone line available anymore, which is becoming more and more common. Okay, another thing that I want to talk about is you may have some rules in place that are your everyday rules that are doing things for you, and when you're going to be away for a while, you want to suppress those normal routines. You want to keep them from happening. So let's talk about how that could be done. I'm showing an example on the screen here that shows, at 8 a.m., if it's Monday through Friday, then we're disarming Area 1 immediately. So, this is just a rule that you have in place. You want, at 8 o'clock on weekdays, you want the system to disarm. Again, this may be something that you see more in a commercial or business type setting, but, when you're going to be away for an extended period, you don't want that to happen. Let's say it's like a long holiday weekend, or your business is closed over July 4th, for example. That week your business is closed that week, and you don't want your system to disarm at 8 o'clock every morning. So what we can do, and I'm showing kind of a different way to do it now. Before, when we were talking about the water shutoff valve, I was using a counter to flag that the system was armed in vacation mode. That's one way to go. I'm showing another example here, and it's not to say that one is better than the other. It's just a different way to do things, and that's something to keep in mind with rules. There's sometimes different approaches that you can take to the same problem and find a viable solution either way. So in this example, I'm actually just using what I refer to as a phantom output. That's an output that doesn't physically exist on the system. It's not really being used to control anything, but the system still keeps up with its state changes. And so we're just having that output 50 in this example follow the vacation mode. So when we're armed in vacation mode, it's on. When we're disarmed, it's off. So with that in place, we can then add an end statement to our original rule that basically says, vacation mode is off. So once we do this, then we can add that end statement to this rule and basically say, if that output is off, then this rule can work. But if we've armed in vacation mode, we've turned that output on, which is going to prevent this rule from working because this end statement is not true at that time. So that's how you can just sort of build that into your normal routines so that you could then, if you're going to have a long weekend or you're going to be gone for a while, you can arm to vacation mode instead of to away mode, and that's going to suppress those normal routines for you. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a moment here and see if we have any questions.
We do have some, and I just want to remind everybody that if you do have any questions about any parts of the webinar, you can definitely ask them now. But we went over how to automate an electric water heater. But are there any solutions or recommendations to automate a gas water heater?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any way to actually do that at this point. You know, we can control pretty much anything that's electric or electronic, you know, through some form of technology, whether it just be switching power, you know, through relays or other technologies. But for a gas-based water heater, there's really not a lot of options for us to be able to, you know, basically turn that off. It's just not that straightforward with a gas. So I'm not aware of a way to do that at this point. And I've been asked that quite a few times, so I've looked into it a little bit.
But that's all the questions that we have.
Okay, well, what I'd like to do right now at this point is just, I want to go back to that example we were talking about with the event notifications, and just show, like, if you have a particular user code that you only want to be enabled when your system is armed in vacation mode, we can, you know, very easily do that through rules. So I'm just going to hop here over to Elk RP. You can see I've got a lot of these rules that I've been showing you set up here, but I just want to come here and I'm going to set up a new user. And I'm going to call this user my house sitter. And I'm just going to give it a random code here. We don't really need menu 1 through 5, so we're going to give them arm, disarm, and bypass privileges in area 1. So that's going to be my user. Now that I have that user set up, I can come here to my rules section, and I can go to whenever, choose security/alarms, and I can say when the system is armed in vacation mode, then I want to enable that user. So I only want my house sitter code to work when I'm in vacation mode. So I'm going to go find that particular user, and I'm going to say I'm going to enable that user. And so now when so with this particular rule, I mean, my next instinct move here is to write a rule that just basically says when the system is disarmed to disable the user, but then if that user actually disarms the system, then it's not going to work anymore. It'll allow them to rearm it. So this is where we need to come back to either using our output 50 or our counter to determine whether or not the system has been armed in vacation mode. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the counter in this example, and I'm just going to add it here so that you can see if this was, you know, what you were doing, you would add that in there. I've already named that counter from my previous example, so I'm just going to go to set change counter, and I'm going to select my vacation counter, and I'm going to set that to a value of 1 because I've just armed to vacation mode and I want to know that I've done that. So I'm using this as a way to flag that. Alright, so now I've enabled that user. Now, what I want to do next is say, you know, whenever the system is disarmed, and we're going to specify that it was disarmed by me. So when I come home and I disarm the system, at that point I then want to disable my house sitter code. Let me specify here. I want to go back and add the and statement here to say that, you know, it was armed in vacation. So I'm going to check my counter. Alright. So when I armed in vacation mode, I'm turning the user on and I'm setting my flag so that I know it was in vacation. And so then when I come in and I disarm with my main user code, and again I specified that I was the one, Amy is the one that disarmed, and it's been in vacation mode, then I'm going to disable the house sitter code. And you could also just set up a task to enable and disable that user on the fly if you need to, which might be good from your user interface while you're away. If you need to turn on a particular user that you've had turned off, you can just set up a task for that as well. All right, so are there any other questions or any other examples of things you'd like to see us go through, or something that we went through that maybe didn't make sense that we want to revisit? We've got a few minutes here.
I do want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded and that we will send it out next week with our follow-up email, but it will also be available on YouTube later this afternoon. I do have a question from someone that they're like, when you first create a user, is it automatically enabled?
Yes, a user does not get disabled until a disable command is issued. So when you create a new user, that user is automatically enabled, and a rule would have to be written to tell the system when to disable that user and then when to enable it as well. But again, if you didn't have any rules on a user that said anything about enabling or disabling that user, then it's just always going to be enabled. They're enabled by default when they're created.
That is all the questions I have. So, I mean, we definitely have plenty of time if anyone else has questions or want us to go over an example that they have. But while we are waiting, if anyone has questions, I do want to remind everybody that we do have a Make Me Famous campaign running. So if at any time that you're doing an install and you think it's unique or just cool, or you just want to share it, definitely send it to us and we'll post it on our website, social media, newsletter. We love seeing everyone's work and how everything's always different. I just posted one this week on a redo of an alarm panel. So just definitely check us out on Facebook. You'll see all of the installs that have been sent in. They're all pretty cool.
There are a lot of neat installs on there, so yeah, check that out. And there are a couple of examples of a before and after. They're just really nice to see how an older system's being taken out, and our installers are doing such a great job making such neat looking installs when they're putting the M1s back in. So it's really cool to get to see that. So we encourage you to share that with us.
And then we're also going to be at ESX in Nashville next month, June 25th and 26th is when the expo is, but the whole show itself is the whole week. So definitely come by, see us, booth 241, and then in September is CEDIA. So if you guys are planning ahead early, we will be at CEDIA in Denver, Colorado. So definitely check us out at those two shows coming up. Well, we have no other questions, so just a reminder that we are recording this and it will be on YouTube shortly. So if you have any questions whenever, just email us. We are more than happy to help you at any time.
If you email training@elkproducts.com, that actually comes directly to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about your particular application, or if just you think of something after we end here. And we've got a lot of great information on our website at elkproducts.com. Like if you're interested in one of these lighting partners or thermostat partners that we talked about today, you'll find a lot more information on our website as far as parts that you need to get, what to expect when you go to actually set that up. So definitely check that out, and we just wish everyone a great weekend. Yeah?
Yeah. So we still have 10 minutes. I did get one question on
Okay.
someone that wanted us to show them how to set up a rule using an F key to do something and turn on the light key. So I guess using an F key to turn on a light, I'm guessing that's how they should have typed it.
So I'm wondering if they're talking about like turning on a light with an F key, or if they're wanting to
Yeah.
know about the backlighting of the F key and getting it to light up when something
I think
happens.
it's turning on a light through an F key.
Okay. So that's something we can do pretty easily. So I'm just going to start a new rule here. I'm going to go to whenever and keypad F key press. And I'm just going to say the F4 key on keypad 2. So when the F4 key on the keypad in the family room is pressed, I want to turn on a certain light. So we can then just go to the then part and go to control lighting, individual, and let's just say we want to turn on the living room light. Now this particular light is a dimmer, so we can set different dim commands. We can change the fade rate, that sort of thing. So you can set that there, and you just do that with the rule. And so then if I was to actually go over here to my keypad 2 or my family room, I don't really need to set anything here because the rule is going to tell it what to do. So did that answer the person's question?
Yes, but
If not,
also
then
it did. But also run through the backlight of the F key as well.
okay. Well, let's just go back to our. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good example of a time to do that. Okay. What I'm going to do is set up. Let's see here. Do I have a garage door? Yeah. Okay. So one common application that you can use the F key for, let's just say that you want to open and close your garage door. So we're going to just say, for example, when the F5 key is pressed on keypad 1, then we want to toggle output 9, which is our garage door. We're going to toggle. That means that it's going to change state. If it's on, it's going to turn off. If it's off, it's going to turn on. So we're going to toggle that. So we've written a rule here to control the F5 key to tell it to do what we want it to do. But now here, again, because we have the rule in place, we don't really need to do anything here. But what we could do is allow this F key to follow the state of that zone. And I think that was zone 9. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's not set to the right definition. But, so our east garage door is zone 9. And so I can set the illumination event here to follow zone 9. And that way when the zone is violated, the key will light up. So if your garage door is left open, key is going to light up, and then you just walk over and press that key and garage door closes. The light goes off. So that's one example of how that works. Got anything else?
I do.
All right.
What command in an M1 task will pull Z-Wave light devices to determine their status?
Okay, so the person's wanting to set up a task to poll Z-Wave devices? Is that?
Yeah, what command in an M1 task will pull Z-Wave light devices to determine their status, I guess, if they're on and off?
Yeah, that
He says that the problem I am having is that my switches do not update the M1 on status if they are manually changed.
Okay, there again, I would want to. Yeah, that's probably something that this person needs to contact tech support. It just depends on the lighting product that they have as far as to whether or not it's going to provide that status feedback. And so that's why what I was talking about earlier with the Leviton specifically is that they do provide that feedback. Some other lighting products don't necessarily provide that. So. But I mean, as far as polling is concerned, polling is not something that we would recommend doing as a way to get light status, because it's just going to flood the network if you have to constantly poll for that. So that's definitely not something we really recommend that you do. But I would encourage that particular person to contact tech support. Again, if they just want to shoot me an email at training@elkproducts.com, we'll dig into it and see if it's product related or if there's something else going on.
Well, that's all the questions I have. I just want to thank everyone for joining us on this Friday, and I hope everyone has a good weekend.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your help with this, Jesse, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you.